Hey yummies. Okay, so this is actually my first video, and some of y'all were asking me to do videos, cooking preparation videos, so I'm going to take a shot at it today. So bear with me, this is the first one. I'm kind of nervous, but I'm going to take you through some of my Sunday cooking. So I have some music playing in the background, some gospel. I try to be relaxed and just flow with it when I'm cooking. So here we go. I'm going to make stuffed pork chops today. So there's a couple of things. I'm going to use stuffing, the Arnold seasoned stuffing. You just buy a bag of it from the supermarket. Butter, some chopped up onions and celery, and the stuffing is already made. I prepared it already, but basically what you do is you melt like about 2 tablespoons of butter in a small pan because you don't need a lot of stuffing. So this bag is like 12 ounces, so I use half the bag for this particular recipe because I'm making 4 stuffed pork chops. So basically you just let the butter melt. You add your chopped vegetables. It could be celery, onions, peppers, whatever vegetables you like, mushrooms, however you normally make your stuffing. You melt the butter, you add the vegetables, you let the vegetables soften, and then you add the stuffing to the pan. And if it's not enough butter, to coat the pan, you add a little bit of water. So what I did was I melted the butter, I put the vegetables and I softened them, then I added the stuffing, and then what I did was I just stirred it up so that the stuffing would be coated with the butter. Then I started adding trickles of water to it to soften it because the stuffing is hard. So you want it to be like moldable so you can put it inside the pork chops. If it's hard, the stuffing is going to fall all over the place. All right, so you keep adding trickles of water until it gets about this soft enough where you can do like this to it. All right, so the stuffing is done. This is what it looks like. Okay, so you can see it. Oops, I dropped a little bit. Sorry about that. And then I'm going to set the stuffing to the side, and I'm going to set up the pan. So with the pork chops, the seasonings that I use are kosher salt. I use garlic powder. I like Badia, but you can use whatever kind of garlic powder you want. I'm going to put bay leaves in the bottom of the pan while it's cooking. Also Badia, the ground black pepper. And I use paprika. Sometimes I use smoked paprika. Today I'm just going to use regular paprika. And also onion powder. So I season up the pork chops. I did this already, so the pork chops are seasoned. And I basically just sprinkle some salt on top of it. Excuse me, let me throw this out. I sprinkle some salt on it. So I'll take about a little bit of salt in the palm of my hand, because this is kosher salt, so you don't want to use too much. So it's about that much. You see that? Yeah. And then I just take it and I sprinkle it over the pork chops. I'm not going to do it now because I already seasoned it. And you don't want it to be overly salted. So you put, a shake of each of the seasonings. And I kind of don't measure. I kind of just go by how it looks and how it starts to smell as I'm seasoning. Because even before it starts to cook, you can smell all the seasonings coming together. So this is the size pan I'm going to use. Just a little Pyrex pan. I'm going to put, it's 4 servings. So I'm going to take 4 pork chops. And these pork chops, you can see, they're not very thick, so that it's not too much meat, because you're going to use 2 for each serving. So I lay the pork chops in the pan, in the cooking pan like this, right? The oven is preheated to 450, so it's heated up already. I already set it and it's heating. And then I'm going to take my stuffing, and I'm going to take like a handful, in the palm of my hand, But it's enough to cover the whole pork chop, and I'm just gonna lay that across each pork chop. Now you could use less if you want. It's entirely up to you. Depending on how much carbs you want to eat, you don't have to put that much. But I'm going to use a lot because this is the first time I'm doing this particular recipe. So I want to see how it cooks down and how it comes out. So I used all of the seasoned stuffing. Alright. So now each of the pork chops has an equal amount of stuffing on it. And I'm going to take... So there's 8 of these pork chops. So I'm going to take the next 4 and just lay one on top of each pork chop that I filled with stuffing. Alright. So each serving is going to kind of look like this. Alright. I already seasoned these, but what I would do before I put it in the oven is... Sorry about that, I just had to rinse my hands off. What I would do before I put it in the oven is take a little bit more butter, take a slice of it, right, and put it on top of each pork chop. These pork chops are very lean, so I don't want it to get super dry. The juices from the pork chop are going to help to keep it juicy, but I like to add a little bit of butter on top so it just all melts together. And the one thing about fat is fat and salt and sugar always make things taste better. So I use regular butter. I don't use margarine and all of that because I really don't like it. But it's up to you. If you want to use margarine, you could do the same thing. So now your pan looks like this. I'm also going to take a little bit of oil and drizzle it across it, because when you put it in the oven, it's going to start to dry out. So we want to keep it as juicy as possible. You could use whatever kind of oil you want. You could use coconut oil. I'm just using regular canola oil, but you could use grapeseed oil, coconut oil, olive oil, whatever you want to use. It's cold today, so I'm bundled up, so you know that's why I look like I have a big turtleneck on. It's snowing and I'm just in the mood to cook, and I figured since I'm in the house, I would just take today to just do a video of me cooking. Alright, so now these are ready to go in the oven. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover these with foil when I first put it in the oven to keep all the juices in, because if you put it in the oven uncovered, it's going to dry out, and we don't want that. We want this to stay as juicy as possible. So here's my foil. I'm going to cover it, and then I'm going to put this in the oven, and I'm going to let it cook for about 40 minutes. But I'm going to keep checking it just to see how it looks. I don't use a thermometer. Some people use a meat thermometer so that they can see the exact temperature. I don't do that. I just go by the way that it looks. With pork, I don't want the meat to be pink. It has to be cooked all the way. You know, some people with steak make things medium rare or whatever. With pork, you have to cook it all the way through because it's pork. Alright, so this is going to go in the oven, and when it's done, I'll come back and show y'all the end results. See y'all soon.